anyone who's ever deserved to be attacked that way, it's been Donald Trump.
And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
There's a difference between flexibility and telling people whatever you think you need to say to get them to do what you want.
Why don't you release the tape?
You're the one.
Release the
You're
tape.
the one. Now, let me just tell you. Let me just say,
excuse
me. I've given my answer, Lion Ted. I've given my answer.
Well, if you've been watching American politics, you know how dirty it can get with all the name-calling. We've had so much hostility as well. But it's not just in American politics you can find that kind of behaviour. It's in all settings. And is there a way to clean it up is the big question. Our next guest definitely thinks so. Jim Hoggan is the author of I'm Right and You're an Idiot. That's the name of the book. It's pretty straightforward. Jim, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
How'd you come up with the title, first of all?
It was interesting. It was something that someone I interviewed early on suggested that I not do. That I shouldn't, have a book that polarizes people right at the very beginning, because it's a book about polarization. But I thought that it was ironic and it was kind of catchy, and a number of people said, no, that's...
It is, and I think so topical with what we're seeing right now in, we're all watching the US presidential election so far, and, some people are really entertained by it, other people are quite shocked with how low it's got. What's your take on it all?
I personally think it is dangerous.
Okay.
I think that the public square may not be as resilient as we think it is. We may not be able to just say anything and there be no consequences. I think if you look at research on polarization, on public mistrust, both of those are very high, record highs. And people are disengaged from politics and public participation in issues. But if you set aside the people who do this kind of professionally, like Donald Trump and politicians who polarize professionally, we tend to do that on other issues, environmental issues, various kinds of social justice issues that people are concerned about. We tend not to be very good at finding common ground. We have a tendency, I think it's human nature, to overreact when people disagree with us on things we feel strongly about.
And this is just in day-to-day life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That just as human beings, we're getting worse at just accepting a different point of view.
And when it happens on the front page of a newspaper, or on the television news, it's all magnified. So at first, we tend to think if someone disagrees with us about something we feel strongly about, we think, well, they're wrong. But it doesn't take very long for us to start to think that they're maybe actually wrongdoers. And before we know it, it's like a battle between David and Goliath, between good and evil.
So that kind of defensive behavior of like, I'm right and don't tell me I'm wrong, that's my opinion. Like if you said it's got worse, like over what? Over a generation or recently? What have you worked out here?
For me, because I'm a public relations guy for 25 years, in my business, it used to be, when I started out, that I was in the business of persuasion. But there's a bigger sector in my industry, in the public relations industry now, that it's really in the business of ad hominem attacks on people's character. It's in the business of polarizing. And we have this problem. There's a guy named Jonathan Haidt who's done some very interesting work in this area. And he says that by nature, human beings divide into teams, unite against other teams, and that blinds them to the truth. Now, public relations people figured this out, and so they're nudging us into teams. And that is what causes so much polarization, and it basically shuts down discourse. So when I call you a foreign-funded radical, or if I say you're part
try
of
not to call me that, because I was going to say I'm not one of those. But go on,
No, so I suggest that you're part of the forces of no. That is a polarizing technique. That's a manipulative, polarizing technique that, when it's carried out over a long period of time, basically shuts down public discourse, and it's sort of.
But it's deliberate, right?
It's absolutely
deliberate. It's meant to do that.
It's designed, but we also do it inadvertently every day, right? We don't like. We think that we think that other people are biased, but we're not. So we don't have, you know, we often assume, especially if we feel strongly about something, that the other person isn't just wrong, but they're kind of up to something. They're either stupid, they're an idiot, they're, you know, or they're like a, you know, they're up to something evil.
Is there a way of turning that around? Do you suggest that in your book?
Yeah. I mean, there are quite a few things, but there was one moment in my book that was really quite special. And it was out at UBC a couple of years ago, and Gregor Robertson, the mayor of Vancouver, and David Suzuki and I met with a fellow named Thich Nhat Hanh, who was a very famous Zen Buddhist monk. And we were sitting this close, and we'd spent the afternoon together. And he was saying that we need to bring meditation into discussions and arguments about the environment. And I said, you know, I was starting to think, well, really, you know, you're not saying that we shouldn't be advocates. I mean, I know your monks in Vietnam put pictures of policemen who were harassing nuns and priests up on the internet. So that was activism. So you're not suggesting that the Suzuki Foundation doesn't speak out on behalf of the environment. And he had this way about him that he sort of doesn't just look at you, he kind of looks into your soul. And so it was like this really quiet moment that he looked at me and he said, "Speak the truth, but not to punish." And I thought, whoa.
That's a great line.
It's an absolutely great line.
It really is, yeah.
And so for me, I've been thinking about that for 2 years. And
speak the truth, but not to punish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speak the truth, but not to punish.
Thank you so much, John. We could go on for a lot longer, but, you know, time not permitting. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This is the book. It's called I'm Right and You're an Idiot. And it makes me laugh every time I say it, but there's a lot of good stuff in this book. Thank you.
Thank you.